Welcome to Down the Garden Path. I'm your host, Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and plant lover. I enjoy discussing down-to-earth tips and advice to help you seasonally manage your garden and landscape. And I also aim to bring you interesting and relevant topics to educate you all about the landscaping and horticultural industry. Welcome to Down the Garden Path. My name is Joanne Shaw, and I'm the host of this show. And welcome to everyone to join me once again. And today I'm excited to have Carla Bailey with us, and we are going to talk about women in landscaping. And she's going to tell us all about it right now. So welcome to the show, Carla.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
So tell me about, our little pre-chat, you mentioned that this started in 2018, and I'm so excited to learn more about it.
Yeah, for sure. So we started Women in Landscaping. There's a group of us down here in London that we were sitting around another board table and realized that we were definitely the minority in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And we were running into problems, concerns, whether it was on our sites, whether it was in our professional development, that honestly, the people around us just weren't able to answer. They hadn't run into these problems before. And we decided, well, we're fairly capable women. We all have different paths. We have landscape architect to production, to account management, to HR. We could probably do this. So in 2018, we started hosting our first series of events that was business development, it was leadership, it was mental health. And things were going well. Every couple months, we would have a different event ranging anywhere from 50 attendees to 150 attendees.
And so great. All women, 150
all
attendees.
Women.
And that right there shows you the need, right?
Exactly. And we have a lot of allies that would come as well. So when we talk about leadership development, business development, a lot of allies, a lot of different HR people would show up because while they may not be women themselves, they have women that they're looking to develop. And then unfortunately, COVID hit, which I think is going to be the story of a lot of lives, unfortunately. We had a really good momentum, we had really great things going, and then everyone got told to shelter in place, essentially. So things did go quiet for a couple years. We did try to have a few safer events when possible.
Did you try online at all?
We didn't, which we felt at that point kind of allow people. The majority of the women that were coming at that time were, potentially younger families. So we felt, okay, let's not add anything onto plates. Just make sure that we all know that we're still around for each other.
Yeah.
And once we were allowed to, start meeting again, we would start meeting again.
Excellent.
In 2024, I'm almost sad to say this, we actually finally registered as a registered nonprofit in 2024, although we've been around for 6 years. And we changed it up a little bit. So now we do a less structured meeting style. We do a monthly drop-in. And we, anywhere from 10 to 25 women in all different aspects of their careers do come out. So people that are just finishing school, they're, new to career, they might be going through a second career, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then all the way to, that 30-year business owner that has gone through the trenches as a woman in this industry. So it is great to sit around that table and hear these different stories and hear the different concerns, different problems, and be able to offer a series of different solutions because there's different levels of experience.
Right. And do because I'm landscape design focused with the group that I kind of, have started. Is there landscape designers are welcome as well?
Very much so. Landscape design, landscape architects, production, account management, administration.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do forget that there's no such thing as I just answer the phone. I'm just HR. I'm just the financial analyst.
We're so bad at that, aren't we?
Oh, it's awful.
I know. I'm just a landscape designer.
I know.
It just comes out of my mouth, right?
And when you look at landscape and horticulture as a profession, as a career choice, It's not like, okay, you have to go in landscape, lawn and garden, you have to go in enhancements, you have to go in pool, you have to go in irrigation. No, absolutely not.
Mm.
Because, okay, yes, those career paths totally exist, but somebody actually does have to answer the phone and be nice to your clients.
Yes.
Somebody does have to run your books. Somebody
Hmm.
does have to insure you.
Yeah.
And those are all affiliated professions to our industry
Hmm.
that people really do forget about. So when we talk about women in landscaping, very much we are including that group of people that, they are potentially sitting in an office. They don't see
Yeah,
the
they're
production
more the
side of
invisible
things.
support, right? Because
100%.
yeah.
And it's
And I
vital.
think it's important for them, like if we got, I think contractors would be better contractors if they had support, if they knew that support was available. I know
Mm-hmm.
I had recommended a virtual assistant to one of my landscape contractors a few years ago. And I think now she's working full time, kind of thing. And it's I think so many of them don't realize that there is that support, right?
It's mind blowing. And I'm going to say that a lot because I
Hmm.
didn't come from this industry. When I originally started my career pathing, I was in hotel management. Completely different mindset because
Yeah.
it's all back of house and hotel management. Let's be honest.
Hmm.
The whole plan is to not let people know that you exist.
Hmm.
And then when you come into this industry, it's not even that you can't let people know that they exist, it's that it doesn't exist. And it's like, but if you don't answer the phone to your potential clients,
Yeah.
or somebody doesn't answer the phone to your potential clients, you've lost work. I
Yeah.
read something the other day that not answering the phone, not responding to emails in an appropriate timeline, and there was a couple other points, essentially can cost your business, like at a minimum, it's $250 a day.
Wow.
And like, I realize that might sound like a small number, and everyone's like, oh, but it's $100,000 job. I get that. But it's all of the other little bits and pieces that you're missing. It's the
Hmm.
change forms that you aren't doing. It's your
Mm.
HST remittance was 5 days late. So now you're paying interest on your HST. And it's all of those little things that if you're a small entrepreneur or mid-sized entrepreneur, you're so client mindset that you forget about all of the other stuff.
Yeah.
But
And
that's
there's
a
client
tangent.
stuff and then there's the crew and depending
Yeah.
on what you're doing, right? And from a designer standpoint, there's the client, but then there's the contractor, and then there's the next client that you're trying to get
Yeah.
to. So yes, it can be challenging. And I think the many people don't understand the different aspects because we are dealing with elements, we're dealing with seasonality, right?
Yeah.
Today, was it a rain day, isn't it a rain day, and
Is it too wet to cut today because it was a torrential downpour yesterday?
yes,
Now,
yep,
what do I do with my staff because we can't go out, or the pool we've just dug is a mud pit?
yep,
And what do we do?
yeah, yeah,
It's
definitely.
it, this industry, this profession is not for the faint of heart.
But it's also fabulous. Like I don't
Yes.
want to sound like it is a fabulous industry. And I think it should be, especially for women. I think of even like women athletes, like this is a great, because I came to it late. I was one of those second careers and stuff and had it after, ended up after kids and things. And my biggest regret that is that I did start late and that I wasn't in physically strong enough to, because I think I would be a better designer if I worked on the job and knew how to build.
Yes.
Um,
100% agree with
I
you.
love being a designer, but I know that's my weakness. And I've got great contractors that support me in that and other designers, and still have physical issues because I'm like, working in my own garden. But I wish was stronger and physical. And I think that is when I think of female athletes graduating and trying to figure out what they want to do and still like be outside, work it outside
Yeah.
and be physical but still creative and work. And like it takes skill to cut patios and to work on a crew. It takes skill to be a designer and flip between how you manage a client versus how you manage the contractor you're working for and the
Yeah.
crew leader on that team and the plant nursery picking plants. Like it's so no days the same, right? Unless I
No.
block off 3 days in a row to do designs, but that barely rarely happens. So
It's a very, very dynamic
yeah.
industry. And I agree with you. I hope people aren't hearing like, yes, it's a very it's a very hard industry. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
never going to say that it's not, because it
Yep.
is physically demanding. You are fighting against things that are sometimes 100% out of your control when we talk
Yeah.
about weather. I'm in southwestern Ontario, and I can tell you that last December, 100% companies were still putting in pools because we didn't have snow.
Yep.
And 3 Decembers ago, we were dealing with 20 inches of snow. So
Yeah.
to figure out business planning and budgeting 100%. At the same time, going back to when you're in more of a production role, you're in nursery, you're in growers, that sort of thing, you get to be outside all day.
Mm.
There's such a mental health support by being outside all day, good or bad weather.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah.
physically moving. On a previous employer that I worked for, we put a ticker on somebody and they walked 40,000 steps a day in a lawn care crew. And like, that's phenomenal. And then we talk about, okay, you need to be able to lift bags of soil. You need to be able to lift bags of polymeric sand. And like, you have to be able to lift 50 pounds and then walk 50
Yeah.
yards. There's something about the physicality of this industry. And there are amazing jobs out there that, being within, I'm going to get it so wrong, so I'm not going to use the name of it, but going into, special needs homes or going into retirement homes and hospice homes and making sure that they're getting their hands in soil and planting
Mm.
something.
Yes. More like horticultural therapy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's a whole other, I
phenomenal.
think that
Oh,
that industry's coming too. That's booming.
yeah. So like, yes, it can be hard, but when we come to a group such as Women in Landscaping, the whole point of it is that yes, you are going to have hard days, and you have this community behind you that is
Mm.
looking to support you, that wants to keep you in this industry and in this profession, and will answer questions. There's
Mm-hmm.
no such thing as a stupid question. We have a group chat that's going off because somebody has a retaining wall that's just not meeting. And there's
Oh,
10 women right now arguing about, okay, but if you cut it this way, and if you did this and put that
yeah.
side deeper, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just phenomenal because crowdsourcing, we briefly spoke in our pre-talk of like the community is there for it, and the community
Mm-hmm.
is dying to help.
Yes. And I think that's women specific, right? I think men like tough it out and they'll go figure it out themselves kind of thing. Although I'm, shout out to my Durham contractors. They're pretty connected and they share equipment and I don't know how it is out in London, but since COVID, I think they've really that has been one thing is there is more work than all of it. There's no
Yeah.
competition really. Like, there's more work than all of us can do, kind of thing. And they are very collaborative that way. But I feel like women, we are naturally better problem solvers in certain situations. And also um, tend to, I think, maybe it's a personality thing, but I think sometimes a lot of people fall into the trap of like, well, this is how it was always done.
Oh,
and
I
and
hate
when you're
that
kind of
trap.
new to the scene, you're like, well, but we could do it this way now. Like, we can use a wheelbarrow for the polymeric sand, and you can, right? And we've seen that in our industry now with the vacuum, with using vacuums to help control, the heavier
Yeah.
bricks and the heavier pavers and the bigger ones, because it is backbreaking, and people realize that we couldn't keep doing where and going through people like that. So now there's tools, more and more tools to make it easier. um
And that's my favorite thing about the employers that are sitting there. And I'm going to apologize in advance for this tangent,
okay.
because we can all sit and discuss that the the labor shortage
Hmm.
in Ontario and Canada, and then in our specific industry. Landscape Ontario, the Horticultural Trades Association, a few years ago released a study. And as of 2025, we're talking about 100,000 jobs within the landscaping profession, which is so cool. But they're also talking about 25,000 of those will be empty roles.
Mm.
We don't have enough people in this industry. You look at the
Hmm.
really good employers, and there's some fantastic employers out there that are looking at how do we bring in our population that's already here, that
Hmm.
are underrepresented. And to go back to your vacuum to pick up the heavy stones, they're using that because, okay, now, somebody that doesn't have as much muscular muscle, somebody that might be a little bit shorter, somebody that might be a woman, could use that tool and do the job the same speed.
Yeah.
And it's finally clicking into the really good employers of, yes, this is how we've always done it and it's worked and that's fine. However, we have to acknowledge in the next 2 years, we have this massive labor shortage. And if we can update policies, if we can talk about our company culture, if we can change our language on our job sites, if we can do something as basic as having a clean washroom.
That's such an issue. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I was speaking at a women in skill trades event on the weekend, a WIST event. It was phenomenal. And we did speak about, how do you tell a good employer from a bad employer in this industry? And one of the comments I made was, go use their washroom. Ask to use their washroom. Do they have one? That there's a problem if they don't have one.
Yeah.
And then when you go to use it, is it clean?
Right.
Because there's a level of care, there's a level of attention, there's a level of respect there.
Yeah.
That, and I'm not pointing fingers at any gender on this whatsoever. Yeah. But if it's something as basic as that isn't being taken care of, how are they going to take care of you?
Yeah, for sure.
So
that is something important. I do want to say too that I think a lot of people are realizing, so yes, there's a physicality in our industry, but office work, like they're saying, sitting is the new smoking. So and I can speak, sitting at a desk, like I have a sit stand desk for that very reason. And that's why those, sit stand desks are popular, treadmill desks are popular, because people are being, so there's people who are hurting themselves and they're doing an office job,
exactly.
And because it's repetitive and it's the same every day, where landscaping, you can, it's not necessarily the same every day. And you can choose a job, whether you do want the same, every day or not. But I think it is more varied, and I don't know, it's got to be healthier, because I think about that, the sitting isn't, somebody had said, I think it was actually borrowing it from Kelly Ripa on Kelly and Mark's show, and she says it often, sitting is the new smoking. And I think it's not good for us. And we're all modified, right? Is your screen all ergonomically? We're having to do all these
my
things.
Big chair.
Right? The big chair and the sit stand desk. And my son, has raised my second monitor so that it's eye level, like all those things to not hurt ourselves while we were sitting at a desk. And our bodies aren't, like, I'm not physically strong, and I that is my biggest regret, that I didn't start younger. And so I do want to say that you don't need a gym membership, and now you're working, and it doesn't mean you're going to hurt yourself. It doesn't mean you're going to be, I think there's a good way, and most good companies are, they have to do the health and safety. They do want to have safety practices and masks and all of that. So I think look for those companies. You don't just want the truck with the shovel and the guy in the back and kind of thing. There are Ontario rules for them to follow, just like any other business. So as hardworking as landscaping is, I think carrying paper boxes of paper in the office is just right. Like I think of what teachers do, getting down on the ground, lifting kids, or, like, no, they're not allowed to touch them, but moving furniture, boxes of paper, like it's.
If you in WSIB in Ontario, Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, actually does have, like, when you're listing out an injury or what have you, and it's like, okay, we'll talk about the tasks of the job. Yes, you're sitting at a computer. However, you have to turn to answer your phone. However, you have to bend down to get to your printer. Whatever those things are, you still have to say, okay, there's twists, there's bending, there's kneeling, there's reaching above head, whatever that might look like. Part of why I love this industry, I know you're a designer, Joanne, you still get to go outside. You still get to go do sites. Still get to measure and, get your hands dirty.
Yes. Place plants, and then go to after our call, I'm going to go to the nursery and pick up, so I get to be with plants. And I think my job is I'm very spoiled, right? Because I can do the best of both worlds in a way.
And I love that. And I love how when I speak about the 4 women that started Women in Landscaping, I have a black thumb. Everybody is fully aware of my entire social circle. I killed a spider plant the other day. I didn't even know that was possible.
Yes. Take it out of the closet. Carla.
Right. Like I kind of looked at it and I'm like, oh, compost, another
Yeah.
one. But then we have, um, how I met these women was I was working at a landscaping company in their office for
Oh, okay.
part-time, and I was answering the phone and sending the invoices, and then I'd be like, okay, Pam and Michelle, this is the book of work today, and they would go and run the crews, and they were from nurseries together. They had worked at a nursery down the street actually from me, which is awesome. They had taken landscape design together. They had taken horticultural technician programs. Um, Michelle decided to continue her education, is now a landscape architect,
Oh,
which
wonderful.
is such a cool thing.
Yeah.
Pam has moved on to being an account manager at a very large landscaping company. Now, the two of them knew our fourth, Riley, from working in nurseries, and Riley knows things about plants that I don't think is common knowledge. And I
Oh,
wish I could explain it to her that, like, she says some things and I'm just like, my mind is blown. Like, she'll tell you the history of the plant and why you would put it there and what you can use it for. So a very diverse group of people, and then just learning more about how people, especially going to this WIST event over the weekend, how intertwined all of our trades are.
yeah.
As a landscape designer, you're doing this amazing structure. Well, I need a carpenter on site. I need a
Hmm.
gas fitter on site. I need a plumber on site.
Electrician.
And you need an electrician on
Electrician.
site, but I also need the person that knows the plants, like the plants, but I need the nursery to know what I'm talking about when I'm saying
Yeah.
it's 20 foot on center, but I need to cover this area with shade so that they understand your vision.
Yeah.
There's so much interaction that, and I'm not even sure where I'm going with this, but like this industry, this profession is so interwoven.
It's collaborative. Like, don't you find, like,
Very.
so that's something I often say, that's the word I use, is that it's not a standalone industry. It is so collaborative that you need to know all of those people and when to call them and why,
Yep.
and to explain that to the client, that all has to happen. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it is such a unique industry, and I think that is in and of itself a reason to join. You know what I mean,
Yes.
to be involved in it, because it is very collaborative. But I also think there is a big place for women in landscaping, so I'm so excited to
Yes.
know and that about you, and because I think that will help the barriers, and I think that will
Yes.
help change the impression, and just have, because you see the commercials too where you know um, like every parent wants their kid to be a doctor and a lawyer or whatever, right? And the kid wants to work outside, and there's nothing wrong with that. And these business owners that own these landscaping companies are super successful, have beautiful
Yep.
homes, and are raising their families. And people will say, well, what do you do in the winter? Well, like climate change, we're doing a lot in the winter these days,
Exactly.
sadly. And there's lots of options that happen in the winter, kind of thing, right?
It's one of those um, very low, almost no barrier to, excuse me, to entry to this. If you want to be an entrepreneur, and in your head is you just want to be an entrepreneur, you haven't figured out industry
Right.
yet. Cool. Join Landscape Ontario, join CNLA, join I always get the letters in the wrong order. The OLA,
Yes.
the landscape
OLA,
architect, yeah.
landscape architect. Yeah.
Join ISO, International Standard for Arborists. Join one of those organizations.
Hmm.
Look at the discounts you get from joining that organization on your equipment, on your truck, on your back end software, whatever it
Hmm.
is, and start it. Start it with yourself.
Yeah.
By, honestly, with where I live, they're putting in 5,000 condo units every single year for the next 5 years,
Oh my gosh, here too.
which is a
Yeah.
conversation for another day. But
Yeah.
someone has to cut all those grass. Somebody has to plant all those plants.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur, but you don't know what you want to do yet, be an entrepreneur in landscaping.
Yes. Oh my gosh, totally.
And
Yep.
the cool thing is there is absolutely no difference between being a female entrepreneur in landscaping and a male entrepreneur in landscaping. The barriers are the exact same.
Yeah.
As your career changes, as your company grows, those might change.
Hmm.
Okay. But if you just want to get going, you're 20 years old, you're 19 years old, and this is what you want to do to put yourself through college or university,
Yeah.
and then you realize you don't have to put yourself through college or university and have a successful business.
Yeah.
I was, and I'm not going to beat up anybody here, but guidance counselors talk about what they know, and what they know is post-secondary university into teachers college into a 10-year career into guidance counseling, and that's fantastic.
Yes.
They
Yes.
don't know enough
Or
about
nursing,
apprenticeships.
especially for women, right? Or
Yeah.
nursing. If you're good in science, you can go to nursing. If you're good in
Yeah.
English or math, you can go to teaching. Like, yeah. And I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm old, so I don't know if that's still the case, but yeah, I know what you
I think
mean.
it's changing a bit.
Yes.
However, you're still not hearing a lot about going into trades.
Right.
And a lot of times when we talk about going into trade, it's plumbing, it's electrical,
Yeah.
it's gas fitter, it's HVAC, and carpentry. Those are fantastic ones because all of
Absolutely.
those build a home. We need homes. You're always going to be employed.
Right. Right. But all those homes have yards, right? And
Exactly.
landscaping is never really kind of considered in that lump of trades, is it?
It's, you know what? It's because it's unregulated for
Mm,
starters.
that is
The
true.
Red Seal trade is voluntary for seconds, and it
Yeah.
turns into those low barriers. If you want to be an entrepreneur, is almost what's actually holding us back to being like, no, we need to charge $175 an hour. This is our skill set.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just that word again, we're just cutting grass. So we're charging $50 an hour.
Yeah.
That doesn't cover your cost. So, and I
Insurance.
apologize. We're talking about women in landscaping, and I'm going
Yes.
all over the
No,
place. But
no,
like,
there's lots of, it's a big topic, but women in landscape. So you what was the decision involved in so I'm glad you gave a shout out to the other ladies. We'll do that at the end as well, and all their info will be in our show notes. But the decision to become an actual nonprofit and register, that must have been like, how
oh,
did you come to that decision?
oh, I wish I had a better story for this, Joanne. Full disclosure, I was very frustrated.
Mm,
I was very frustrated, and I thought there was something going on. I thought there was a group that was trying to absorb us, and we were very intentionally separate. We were very intentionally needed to do our own thing because we
okay.
do have as women in this industry, we do have our own needs. We did have our own problems, our own concerns. Um, so we set ourselves up quietly in 2018, and then this year I was hearing things coming, and I was just like, oh, like I feel like they're either stepping on our toes, most likely unintentionally, most likely
Yes.
it wasn't just in a mistake. And I'm like, you know what? We got to register because there's going to become a point where we are too big that we can't not be registered.
Good. That's
Fully,
good.
fully love this other association,
Yeah.
very much so. Have a lot of respect for them, are members of this association.
Hmm.
Um, However, we do need to look at, as women in landscaping, something that is centered around women in
Women. Yeah.
landscaping.
And that's good. And that was I think that was very forward thinking of you to do that. Because our needs, so in amongst, we talked about the industry, but yes, but women in that industry, we do need to grow that. And
Yes.
we do need to, emphasize that that is a great career. Part of me starting that career was when I had kids. And
Yes.
I could see people like in between the kids' school hours, but still be there to pick them up. I could, work weekends when my husband, had the kids, and that's, and this is going back, 20 years now. So I found this job by accident, and it worked really well for me with young kids because I started it when I went to get my landscapes. Just, I know this show isn't about me, but landscape design certificate at Ryerson with little kids,
Yeah.
and so I would go. I had a babysitter for an hour, and then I drive downtown to what is now the Toronto Metropolitan University, but it was Ryerson at the time, and for continuing ed. So I did it that way with young kids, and then when I started working, it was a job that I could do around my children. I could take them to baseball practice as they got older and sit in the car and return calls and watch
Yeah.
practice. What are we doing when we're watching practice? We're right now everybody's like going through Instagram, right? But I could be in my car, returning calls, setting up appointments, that type of thing, creating plant lists. So I think that, for young moms, I also don't want to say, oh, this is a job only for women who are young and coming out of
Yeah.
school. It is a job that you can do with children. You can do if you've already sat in a computer for 10 years and you want to go into it later in life. I know several women who've done that just, were good gardeners and passionate
Yep.
gardeners and wanted to do a job that was outside. Absolutely. So I feel like there is no perfect route, but there is no barrier. Like you said, there is no
Yep.
barrier.
And that's the coolest thing about being
Yeah.
able to make your own path. I have two super amazing companies that really help solidify. So I know of a grower, a nursery,
Hmm.
and they have what's called a mom crew. So they have their traditional crews or teams
Okay.
are 6 people,
Okay.
and you are scheduled in certain overlaps, and this is what you do every week. There's the same 6 people, and then they have the mom crew, and the mom crew has 9 people doing 6 full-time jobs. And you're like, okay, that financially doesn't make sense, but it does, because one mom is on pickup from schools, and one mom is on drop off for schools, and one mom's on doctor's appointments, and one mom is on sick, and one mom is on vacation. So yes, there's 9 moms
Yeah.
with different age children, but every single week 6 people in various allotments are going in and doing this job. This is such a forward thinking
Oof.
employer of, yes, okay, we have 40 hours times 6 people, but if we part-time it, we still get 40 hours times 6 people. It's
Yeah.
mind-blowing. I
Yeah.
work with another company who,
Oh my gosh. Wow.
right,
What a job. Yeah.
like it sounds
It's
so
a
simple when you say it
no-brainer.
out loud.
Yeah.
I work with another company that, this is phenomenal. They're a newer company. They actually started during COVID, which is a crazy time to start a
Yeah.
business. And like the owner, she is an absolute powerhouse. And the majority of her team are retired. So her business is set to specific hours, and these are women that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s that
Yep.
want to come out for 20 hours this week or 30 hours this week, but can't do anything next week.
Hmm.
Um, and they install some of the most amazing work I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And these are people that historically, you hit 40, you hit 50 as a woman,
Yeah.
you disappear.
Hmm.
Your children no longer need you, right? You're
Hmm.
retired, whatever that is. It's a
Oh
very
my gosh.
lost generation or age
Yeah.
group of women
Yep.
that are contributing so fantastic to this business. And her business is run off of their availability.
Oh my goodness. That is great.
So when we talk about like low barrier, sure, you
Mm-hmm.
want to not go to school and you maybe want to do apprenticeship in 10 years and you just want to be outside, join us when you're 18. But
Mm-hmm.
we're still here for you 60, 70 years old.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, definitely. And there are other jobs. I know I have a contractor here that has the trucks, like, they deliver they deliver the
Yeah.
stone, they deliver and so he has his crew consists of several women that are the truck drivers, and it works. They're single moms. It works for their hours. And, and that's fabulous, right? So, yeah, there is really no barrier. And I think the way to raise awareness is women in landscaping, because I think we don't need, like, men aren't going to aren't looking for us, right? Like, the men owners aren't necessarily looking for us. They don't know that they need us, but they do, right?
Yeah.
So I think the more I read about women in landscaping, I'm like, this is so needed. And I also think we are better, as much as the industry is very collaborative. I think women are innately collaborative, so I think we take it up to the next level, right? And
There are, um, everyone always talks about KPIs, key performance indicators. There are non-quantifiables
yeah.
that, both genders do bring to industry.
Hmm.
But when you look at as small children, we play in groups, and then you stay in those groups. Um, More likely than not, you're going to see women work together a little bit more collaboratively.
Yeah.
And I am obviously want it to be known that obviously I'm not saying anything that men cannot do that.
Right.
Because we do have a lot of allies that come to
Yes,
our
yes, yeah.
larger events.
Yeah, we're not, this isn't
Yeah,
a man bashing episode, right? Like, no,
exactly.
we're just saying that inside of this group, there's room for more of us.
Exactly. And there is, going back to that statistic, that essentially a quarter of the jobs will be open available for workers as of 2025, which is an absolutely terrifying statistic if you're a business owner. I think that's where, especially in Ontario, we hear a lot about of our foreign temporary workers. Everybody seems to be wanting to go that route. There is, again, going to this Landscape Ontario study that was done, when you look at the amount of women in our industry, it's under 30%.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me that there's a quarter of the jobs that are open and yet only 30% of the filled jobs are women, going back to those two organizations I just mentioned, of like, they looked at, this is the amount of work that has to get done. How do we adjust it?
Yeah.
I have a hard time accepting that we have a labor shortage. I will agree to a skilled labor shortage. I have a hard time accepting an entry-level labor shortage when only 30% of the roles that are filled with women.
Yeah.
That's something you need to look at your business culture. You need to look at your
for sure. But I think it's both, right? Like, I think it's the education system not making people aware that's an option. I think it's a niche industry. So I think, and I did a rant podcast a couple episodes ago about, because somebody posted on LinkedIn, it was a discussion about landscape design, and somebody posted, well, landscape design is as a luxury item, like it's a luxury product, right? And I was like, oh my God, what are you talking about? So I did a little solo episode with a bit of a rant. So, and I don't know if people have listened too much to it, whatever, but so I feel, I don't know that our industry is doing a good job of attracting women. I think it can be intimidating. But once you're over that hump, you realize like how great an industry it is. So I think, and I don't know, the government does an okay job, not really, because I have a son who's tried to get into being an electrician, and it was like obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and out like the website for landscape on like for not landscape Trades Ontario or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, was it written in 1980? Like, I swear they're still using DOS. Like, it's not attracting kids that are 25 years old, right? So it is hard to get into that industry despite what the news says. So this is another little rant. Despite what everybody says, they do not make it easy to become an electrician. They do not make it easy to be an apprentice. They do not.
Yeah.
And
which is why, and I apologize for stepping on you, but that's why, like, Landscape Ontario does.
Yes.
Right? If you want to be a horticultural technician apprentice, you can call up Landscape Ontario. There's a group of people there, workforce development, that they essentially do all of it except for two documents, one for your staff member and one for the employer. And they do everything in the background for you. And then there's another organization out there that is young girls and young women specific, and it's called Build a Dream. They started in Windsor.
Okay.
And they are for high schoolers, grade 7 even, up to first couple years of post-secondary, to explore non-traditional career pathing.
Excellent.
And they will come into a high school, they will come into an elementary school, they will host an event. We were lucky enough we had a like everyone talks about, like the red carpet. We did a green carpet of different landscaping companies a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And they got to play in the equipment. They got to bring their parents, which was more important, so that we could talk about to the parents, look, this is the career that your daughter could have, but she needs your support.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the build a truck? Build a truck, touch a truck.
Touch a truck. Yeah.
Because that goes with that, right?
That's it. And so Women in Landscaping, we've been doing it for 5 years. And we decided, okay, Build a Dream's doing a great job for that's like grade 7 to 2 years post-secondary. We're going to talk to the smaller kids. And who, as a small kid, doesn't want to go and climb on the tractor and honk the horn? So our first year, we held it at a local nursery, the nursery that my three partners,
Uh-huh.
co-founders actually worked at, and that's where they met. So we hosted it there. We had 3,500 people show up. We assumed it was going to be like 500. So yay, knocked it out of the park the first year.
Yeah.
But we got to help a local business. That was probably their highest day of residential sales that they've ever had because of the amount of people going through their greenhouse and nursery.
Mm.
But we also got to have the landscapers talk to homeowners about, we could come to your property. We're still booking work, but we got 3,500 children playing on landscape equipment.
Mm-hmm.
It's phenomenal. So since then, we're 5 years in. This will be our 5th year in July. We're expecting 5,000 people to come to this one. We have 25 companies that are signed up. We have 5 amazing sponsors. And we can talk to mom and dad or grandma and granddad or caregivers or guardians and be like, look, they always want to know how much money you're making. They always want to know what do you do in the winter.
Right.
Okay. And that's fair.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
You're making maybe $40,000-$50,000 the first year as an entry level with no experience, no education, but you can make $100,000 if you decide to go into education, if you decide to go into different paths. You could be doing nothing in the winter. There are companies that don't do snow removal, but you could be a landscape designer and be really busy all winter.
Yeah.
You could be doing snow removal, and sure, that's going to be hard, and maybe that's going to help you decide to move into a management position where you're not doing snow removal. Or maybe, shockingly, folks, maybe your child, who then turns into an adult, really just wants to be outside as much as possible, and they like playing with the equipment, and they find a career where they're able to do that.
Yep.
And they're happy to do that. And as a parent, you should be okay with your child wanting to be outside.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I think parents are so keen these days on all their kids doing, sports. Like I mentioned already about sports
Yeah.
and physical. I mean, that's great training. Like for the hockey
Yeah.
players pushing wheelbarrows, for the, soccer play. I mean, it's a good job. I mean, snow isn't that bad really because they're probably shoveling snow for you, parents, right? Like they're helping you.
Yeah.
So it's really, and if it doesn't snow, they still get paid.
Exactly.
That's the thing, and that's years like this past year, it's always a little tricky for the snow contracts, right? Because people are like, well, I need a credit because it never snowed. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
Consider
um
it like insurance, right? You pay your
exactly.
car insurance, hopefully you don't crash your car.
You
You
don't
pay
crash
your
your
snow
car.
removal, hopefully it doesn't snow.
Yeah. And if it does,
But yeah,
then you've got somebody there. So it's not
exactly.
like, you could be learning to drive the truck and, it's a couple of late nights or, but it's certainly flexible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I think we need to improve the visuals, and I think Touch a Truck event is a great, really great practical idea,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping things like our podcast and your movement. So I do definitely want to talk with you more about that, even offline, about how do we get something going in Durham, or because you said there are more chapters, so you've kind
Yeah.
of broken into chapters.
We are. So we're hoping to launch a couple chapters this month, which is June.
Okay.
So we want to make it as easy as possible for everybody, which means across the province, it will always be the fourth Thursday of the month. It'll always start at 7 o'clock in that time
Yes.
zone, whatever time
Okay.
zone that is.
Okay.
Um, and
And I love that across the province.
yeah, so our game plan, we want to make sure that it's sustainable. We would hate to, start something and then we have to bring it in. So
Mm,
we're looking to do a couple in southwestern Ontario over the next few months, and then slowly grow out of that. So
okay.
um, yeah, we're really excited. We've got connections in Ottawa that are game for it. We've got connections in Calgary that are game for it. So we're getting there.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but we're stoked. It's obviously telling us that there's a need,
Yeah.
which is important. And it's really important that we fill it with people that are positive, that are problem solvers, that want to push the profession forward.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That is very good. And I think garden clubs too. Like so I'm part of the Pickering Garden Club. And I could see a bit of a connection there too, because they tend to be women, and they tend to be women though that know that this is a great industry, right?
Yep,
Uh,
exactly.
and they're doing it on a volunteer basis, on a passion basis. But they would be, and they're looking to get like younger people to join, and younger people to help with the city gardens that we maintain, and different things like that. So shout out to that too, as like a baby step, as an entry to grow, an
Yeah,
entry to talk to about this world. And it's not just gardens, there are other elements
yeah.
of the industry, and that's the cool part, right? Is that there's so many different aspects of it, and I'm sure many people don't even realize.
We do a Trailblazer Tuesday. So we do a specific
Oh,
post on every Tuesday on all of our socials that talk about, you know, a specific woman.
okay.
They self-nominate, they give us a little bit of a bio, they give us a couple tips and tricks. And I don't think we've had the same job title in the almost 3 months that we've been doing it. It has been
Okay.
different job titles, different regions. Some of the coolest pictures that I have, like, they should be proud of what they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to talking about what type of person, if you are in administration, if you are in HR, because like I said, I got a black thumb, but I'm still in this industry. You're in
Yeah.
sales, you're in production, and
Mm-hmm.
production is, I'm growing the sod, I'm growing the plants, I'm, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe I'm working at the lumber mill, maybe I'm working at the quarry,
Yeah.
maybe I'm driving the truck from the quarry to the stone yard, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Maybe
Nursery
you're,
sales, like working at a garden center, working at the growers, they're often looking for people, those baby plants, need to keep going,
yeah,
and knowing, what plants are just by their leaf. Like that's a skill,
it's
right?
mind blowing. And then you
Yeah.
learn a second language. Like,
Yeah.
I can't speak it, don't get me wrong, but I have sat around a table and they're all talking Latin to each other. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go get a glass of water. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. It is so varied, and it really is a great industry. And I think I always feel, when we leave a site, like the customers are blown away, So I feel like there's people out there that would agree with us that have never been in it, but that once they have had a landscape installation, and they've seen how the people work, and they've seen how the design, like the process and all the
Yeah,
things involved, they're blown away. And I think there's a way, if women in landscaping can, spread the word, um, then I think that's great. And I also think that once you're in the industry, so that's another, like, so I think you're doing a great job of like bringing people into the industry, but knowing also that once you're there is support for you. Right? We are
exactly.
collaborative. It's not like, oh, well, that's my territory. We don't need another designer in that territory. I had that happen. I had a designer that I knew from when I was in school, and she was always a Toronto, city designer, and she moved near me, and she was here,
Nice.
and I didn't know, and she was here, and we were good for, friends, and we'd had coffee and stuff, and she'd moved, and it was like a year and a half, and I discovered by accident, and I'm like, connected with her for coffee, and I said, what? And she goes, well, I didn't want you to feel like I was, you know cramming your territory or whatever, jumping on your. And I'm like, are you kidding me? There is more work in Durham region than one designer can do, right? Like,
Yes.
the more the merrier, the more we can spread the word. I said, for me, the passion is that people need to get a design. I always say, great landscape start with a plan. One of my neighbors right now, I saw guys out there, they obviously hired labor to cut, remove all the sod. And now I see orange spray paint, where I'm guessing somebody's going to go and landscape something without a plan, and without any forethought as to how it should look.
It's,
So that drives
oh,
me crazy. So I'm more passionate about that than I am about other designers moving to my quote unquote territory that isn't really a territory. So the more the merrier, I think, and to have to know that there is something like women in landscaping available to us, I think, and to young women and women that are looking at changing careers. What's happening? A lot of teachers
yeah.
are leaving teaching because it's the physical and mental demands. And I know a few that wanted to get into landscaping because of that, right? And it's so disappointing, but I'm glad that they see this as something they can do.
We
So,
found at during COVID, I was working for a very large business down here, a landscaping business down here in London. And what I found on the resumes that started to come in, landscaping was one of the first industries allowed back to work during COVID.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, people
Like very soon.
realized
We were only shut down for a few weeks. Really,
exactly.
right?
So people started to realize, oh, wait, they're working. I need to work. And then they started to realize, no, wait, this is actually interesting. This is
Mm-hmm.
different. This is giving me skills I didn't know that I needed. And when you look at what production wise, what we do, which is at the very base level of landscaping, we're on our feet 8 to 10 hours a day and we're walking, and sometimes the temperature is really hot. What does that sound like?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's ever worked in a kitchen.
Yeah,
If you can work in a kitchen, you're probably working in worse conditions
absolutely.
than the average landscaper. And you get to be outside. You don't have to pay to go get a tan because you're going to be outside. You're going to get a tan anyway. You're going to use muscles you didn't actually know you had.
Yeah.
You're going to get fit. Um, and
You
to
meet
go
great
back to your,
people,
you meet
right?
great
Great
people.
clients
And there really is, there's a job satisfaction that
mm-hmm.
really can only happen in landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to the young girls on the weekends, we talked about you get blind to your landscape. People, maybe not you and I, but most people don't really know if it's a good job or like a
Oh, right.
bad job.
Mm-hmm.
But then you drive past a house and it has really smooth edges. It has great edges on the sidewalk, on the walkways, on the path, and you're standing there going, it's phenomenal, and you don't know why.
Yeah.
Because a landscaper professional went and did a professional job.
Yeah.
And there's no barrier to that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exciting. That's exciting. So you have a couple of other things you want to talk about, like want to announce to on the show about things that are coming, in addition to your monthly meetings.
Yeah, so we touched base on our monthly drop-ins, which is fantastic. So we do have another one for London-centric people. It'll always be, like I said, the fourth Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. It's all over our socials.
Okay.
In July, I'm going to grab a calendar really quickly so I don't get the date wrong. July 20th, it is a Saturday. That is the day of Touch a Truck in London.
Okay.
We actually worked with Landscape Ontario this year. So we are launching 5 Touch a Trucks on July 20th throughout the province.
Okay.
We're really, really happy to help them out to make sure that that was planned well and that they have the right groups that are coming in. We have a 6 Touch a Truck happening in September in, oh my goodness, Georgian Bay area. I
Okay.
apologize. Clarksburg always comes to mind. Um, and then what we're really excited about, what I'm genuinely pumped for, is we are working alongside Landscape Ontario to have a Women in Landscaping luncheon happening during Congress 2025. So Congress is one of the largest trades events conferences that happens. I'm sure the team at LO could use better words than I can. So we're
Mm-hmm.
really excited that they have tens of thousands of people and come to their event, education, come deal with equipment, come see new materials, really get the
Yes.
community together. So we're really excited to announce that Women in Landscaping will have an event during Congress 2025. So more to come on that.
Excellent. Now I'm really excited about that. So that is good. That's a reason to go to Congress on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do look forward to that event in the industry. Landscape design conference is usually the Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that same week is the Congress. So, and many industries, and that's another thing. See, something like that happens. It really is an industry thing. Many industries have their conference, right, or have their trade show and stuff in during their season or whatever. And so it's another way as anybody who's thinking about entering into it. One, there's a great job board there, but
Yeah.
you can walk around and realize that the variety of whether it's landscaping, whether it's design like I do, but there's business needs. There's say if you're good at sales, you don't have to just work for Ford, you can work for some of the other company,
Exactly.
equipment companies that need you. So it really is a great and unique industry. And I guess we're fangirling a lot about it, but we need to do it to get the word out that it is a good industry. But also, I think it's great to know that you're developing something where women, because if you are in the industry, or if you want to be on the industry, chances are you will be one or two of women in the crew. It's not, that type of thing. So knowing that there's a place you can go to, solve some problems, make sure things are being done ethically and
Yeah.
by the books, and if you want to grow your own business or advance in the industry, having other women help you is I think one of the best ways and fastest ways to make that happen. Don't you agree?
100%. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here having this conversation.
That's right. That's
We
right.
need each other, and I think especially now more than ever, you need a safe, soft landing zone, and women in landscaping can totally be it.
Excellent. And so, where can people find more about you? You have a Facebook group.
We do. So we're on social. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Okay.
All of our contact information are on those. And full disclosure, Joanne, we are looking for sponsors so that we can start launching our professional website. So it's a little less social media and a little bit more professional looking. So,
Right. Right. Okay. Well,
so
that's
once we
good.
get that, I will update everybody.
Excellent. And I'll have all of that in the show notes as well. So that is good for everybody to know. Yeah, so thank you. This has been great
Yeah.
talking with you and learning more about this. And I know I will definitely see you. If I don't see you before Congress, I will see you at Congress, but I hope to be able to connect with you before, so to talk more about it, because I'm very excited with what you started. Um, and do you want to give a shout out to the other three ladies that have helped you?
Yeah, for sure. So there are four founders of Women in Landscaping, Riley Irwin, Michelle Peters, Pamela Cook, and myself. So I'm very proud to work along those three women and get this business, get this association going as far as we can.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining me on Down the Garden Path to discuss it. This episode is brought to you by Down2Earth Landscape Design. I'm a landscape designer that as a podcaster, but I'm happy to support you in your design. Whether you are in the GTA or whether you need a virtual design is also possible. So that's just a little plug for me and why I do it. I was saying to Carla earlier, I find I'm a better talker than blogger, and we're always wanting to help people with their gardens, and um, that is the main goal. But often we have these little side discussions that I want to talk about and bring more attention to the industry as a designer. So I'm happy that we were able to speak about women in landscaping today on Down the Garden Path. So thanks everybody for joining and listening, and we'll see you soon.